Today I want to take a second to discuss a very important topic, and that topic is what do I think are the five best sci-fi or fantasy guns. Now, I'm not saying just sci-fi or fantasy weapons. I did a video on that, and I might post it later. But then I decided, I want to narrow it down to guns, things that are gun-like, blasters, lasers, disintegrators, whatever. But handheld, you pull a trigger, it fires a beam, fires a projectile, whatever you want to do, whatever they do. But they got to be gun-like, but they got to be from the fantasy or sci-fi genre. So I thought I would take a second here, and I will name what I think are the top five fantasy or sci-fi guns of all time, and then I'd like to hear what you think are the top five. Okay, at number 5, I have one of my personal favorites. Now, this might be an obscure selection here, but for me, it is the Sandman's flame pistol from Logan's Run. I've always loved this gun. I wanted one of these when I was a kid. I kind of still want one now. So number 5 is the Sandman's flame pistol from Logan's Run. Number 4 is from the cartoon genre. It is none other than the A1 disintegrating pistol, or the Acme 1 disintegrating pistol, carried by none other than Marvin the Martian in the Warner Brothers cartoons. One of my favorite pistols of all time, one of my favorite cartoon characters of all time. So how could that gun not make the list? For number 3, we're going way back. I mean, this is probably a gun that even Guns and Gear will remember. So at our number 3 position of all time, number 3 position for all-time best sci-fi or fantasy guns is the XZ38 disintegrator pistol. This was a pistol carried by none other than Buck Rogers. This is actually one of the very first ray guns ever that gained notoriety in American culture. So there's no way it could not make the list. Now, number 2 is not going to be any big surprise to everybody. The number 2 all-time greatest sci-fi or fantasy gun is the DL-44 Heavy Blaster, which is better known to people that aren't quite as big as Star Wars fans as Han Solo's pistol. One of the iconic guns of all time, one of the best sci-fi pistols of all time, carried by one of the best sci-fi characters of all time, so it definitely deserves the number 2 spot. Okay, now for the number 1 all-time sci-fi or fantasy gun, you ask yourself, what can beat out Han Solo's gun? What can beat out Buck Rogers' gun? What can beat out Marvin the Martian's gun? Well, it's none other than the Type 2 Federation phaser. What kid grew up watching Star Trek that did not want one of these? What guy my age now isn't still waiting for them to make these for them? So there you have it, the all-time, in my opinion, undisputed number 1 sci-fi or fantasy handgun of any kind is the Type 2 Federation phaser from Star Trek. Okay, there you have my list of top 5 sci-fi or fantasy guns. Let's hear what you think of the top 5.